passing your driver's test first time, the skills, abilities, and strategies that you need to be successful to pass your driver's test first time. There are certain skills that you need to have in place. For example, applying the parking brake every time you park the vehicle. And no, it's not called an emergency brake, it's called the parking brake because that's its main use. But many people mistakenly call it the emergency brake and then they don't apply it because they learned from their parents or somebody who's not a driving instructor. You must apply the parking brake every time you park the vehicle for the purposes of a driver's test. And after you pass your driver's test, to be a safer, smarter driver and to ensure that the vehicle is going to be in the same place that you left it after you go shopping or do whatever and come back, and hopefully it's still there. If you weren't supposed to apply the parking brake every time you park the vehicle, then why does it apply automatically on brand new cars? Engineers know. You know, they don't always get it right, but sometimes they do, and this is the reason you need to establish the habit to apply the parking brake every time that you park the vehicle. One of the skills that you need to pass your driver's test first time and be successful. Number of people are here. Evan is here. Mallory is here. Hello from the Maritimes. Elevator fan tuning in from Monticello, Indiana. Marion Grant, my friend here, is tuning in. And Tim from Drive Smart BC. And if you're in the province of British Columbia and interested in traffic safety, anything to do with laws and engineering, road safety, maintenance, building, whatnot, definitely check out Tim's website. Excellent resource there. Tim is a retired police officer and has a great resource there at Drive Smart BC, so definitely check that out. Corey is here, Bricks for Wheels. He is the moderator, does an excellent job of getting up videos I suggest you look at for further information for the questions that you ask. If you are just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from and what class of license you're going for. Bricky says I'm from the Sticks. Blue Girl says she's tuning in from Chesapeake, Virginia. And Greenbrier is here from Arkansas. Use them, why does it exist? Yes, there is that. And as I was saying, Greenbrier, emergency in the event that your brakes on your vehicle fail. But that is rare because, as I've said before, the brakes are divided into two independent subsystems. So if one system fails, the back brakes, for example, the front brakes will continue to work. If the front brakes fail, then the back brakes will continue to work. So the emergency brake, the parking brake, can be used as an emergency brake, but only in kind of the last event, if that ever happens. Big Mac Sam is here from the Bronx. My friend is there. Hello, Sam. How are you, my friend? How is the weather there in the Bronx, New York? And Sam is a driving instructor there as well, and there's some videos here on the channel that Sam and I did more than a year ago now. How quickly time passes. Ann is here from California. Ned is tuning in from Dorchester, London, Ontario, my old stomping ground. I went to Western and I lived in London, Ontario. Elevator fan, tomorrow is my brother's sibling's birthday. They're twins. Awesome. Happy birthday. LTA, my school bus needs to have the park brake applied. It doesn't have a park gear. Yes, I'm guessing, LTA, that you are driving an automatic vehicle, and the automatic commercial vehicle, school buses, big trucks and whatnot, you simply put it into neutral and then you apply the parking brake. And this is one of the transitions for CDL drivers that are moving from cars to big trucks, buses, that you have to apply the parking brake every time you park the vehicle. It's just an absolute must. You cannot not put the parking brake on in a large vehicle. You have to do that, and that's one of the skills that many of these people have to develop because they haven't developed it in their personal vehicle. Now, the interesting part about automatic transmissions versus manual transmissions is that you get people that are driving manual transmissions, they're applying the parking brake every time they park the vehicle. You get automatic, people who are driving automatic transmissions, they're not applying the parking brake and they get out of that habit. And I'll have some comments here from smart drivers. A woman today claimed that she failed her driver's test because she didn't apply the parking brake on an uphill parking. Well, it's not just uphill parking. It's every time you park the vehicle for the purposes of your driver's test. Bricky says, I'm from Washington State. Also, I need tips to pass my driver's test first time. And yes, we're definitely going to help you with that, my friend, during the presentation here. We'll just get through the introductions. H2O, I want to go in my sister's car, but it has dark tints, that's a no-go. Yes, if you have tinted windows on the front of your vehicle, it's something that they're going to deem unsafe or the vehicle is unfit. So this is the other piece of going for your driver's test. Be sure that you do an inspection on your vehicle before you head down for your driver's test. If you're going with the driving school, ask the instructor whether he or she did an inspection on the vehicle as well, because they will do a mini inspection on your vehicle prior to going out for your test. In some rare cases they won't, but in most cases they're going to. They're going to check the lights, signals, high beams, low beams, horn, brake lights, and they're going to make sure that the license plates are attached to the vehicle. If none of those things are in place, or one of those things or something doesn't work, for example, the seatbelt on the passenger side, I've had a student here just recently that was denied his driver's test because the seatbelt on the passenger side didn't work where the driving examiner was going to sit. You will be denied your driver's test. You don't fail your driver's test, but they won't let you take it because the vehicle is unsafe. Now, when you're doing your pre-trip inspection, ensure that you go down, give it a vacuum, give the vehicle a wash. First impressions, right? I'm going to talk about first impressions when you show up. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression for your driver's test. LTA, I just got hired by our local transit agency, so I need to get used to the steering different to a school bus. Yes, and as well, the other thing about that LTA is that on a school bus, you're sitting behind the steer tires. I mean, unless you're driving a cab over, which you're probably not. And on a transit bus, you're sitting in front of the steer tires, so it's a little bit different. You got to get kind of used to that. Tim says, if it is for the purposes of a driving test, isn't it something that you should always do? Tim, yes, it is, but we know that people don't, and if they want to pass their driver's test, they got to do things that they're usually probably not going to do in normal driving. Yes, they should apply the parking brake every time, and I would like to think that I could get people to do that, but many people don't, and I'm going to pick on my friend Sam here, who said you only need to apply the parking brake when it's on a hill. Now, I am a firm believer that you just develop habits, and that way you don't have to think about certain things. There's just some things I don't want to think about all the time, especially driving. Just put the parking brake on every time. It's like turning. Every time you change direction of the vehicle, shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. Every time you're changing directions of the vehicle. Every time you change direction of the vehicle, put the signal on. Whether you're in a parking lot or out on a phone, out on a road or anything like that. Okay, so there's lots of things that you should get in the habit of doing to make driving easier, because there's already enough things and skills and abilities that you need to have in place that are difficult when you're driving that you're going to have to think about. So if the less things that the more habits you can develop, it gives you time to concentrate on other things that you need to concentrate on when you're driving. John, do you know how to look for blind spots, or do you have any videos? Yes, there is a blind spot video here, and Corey will put that up for you as well, John, so have a look at that. H2O, I'm nervous on my parallel parking. Yes, and you're not alone in that, and Corey will put up the video on parallel parking. You can have a look at that. So let's get over to the presentation here. We'll get through that, and then we'll come back. We'll spend about 10 or 12 minutes on the presentation, and we'll come back and we'll spend the remainder of the hour answering any questions you have about passing your driver's test or driving skills. So talking about passing your driver's test, first time being successful. Woohoo! Pass my driver's test. That's what we're talking about tonight. All right, so those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s hauling freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States. Became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997 in a bid to come off the road because I was a long-haul truck driver, gone for days and weeks at a time, and just wanted to have kind of a job at home, and started moving in the direction of becoming a driving instructor. Became so fascinated by the problem of driving and human behavior, and actually I'm on the back burner right now. I've got a book called The Psychology of Driving, and finished my doctorate in legal history at the University of Melbourne in 2006 in the discipline of legal history, which is a study of policing, courts, and prisons. My expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. While I was going to university there in Australia, I drove buses for Greyhound in one of the regional bus lines. And in 2015, I started the online business, the YouTube channel. Hard to believe it was 8 years ago. Crazy how successful it's been. And if you want to know more about me and the online business, you can check that out over at the Smart Drive Test website. Check out the Smarter Driver podcast. Would you pass your driver's test? And as well, a video I put up last week on 20 traffic signs and their meanings and how it affects traffic and how you can use that information to predict traffic patterns and the actions of individual road users along that stretch of roadway. So have a look at that video as well. Knowledge test. The first thing you have to do before taking your driver's test, you have to write a knowledge test. Most of you, all of you, are going to be put into the GLP or the GDL program, the Graduated Driver's Licensing Program, and you have to take a learner's test, and then you have to be in the novice phase of your GDL for a certain period of time. It's anywhere from 180 days to 365 days, which is half a year to 6 months to a year. All right, and the knowledge test is going to cover things such as signs, signals, road markings. It's going to talk about terminology, complex intersections, painted islands, right-of-way, and those types of topics, okay? It's also going to talk about the driving task, which is the 6 factors that you're up against when you're driving. Drivers, vehicles, light, weather, and the last one is the road and traffic. Those are the 6 factors that you're going to be dealing with when you're driving on the roadway or sharing roadway with the other people. For the driver's test, there's 4 components, 4 skills that you have to be in place because you are going to be participating in social driving. And I will tell you right now that if you do what other drivers are doing on the roadway and drive the way that they drive, for the most part, you are not going to be successful on your driver's test. You have to implement skills and abilities that are somewhat contrary to what other people are doing. For example, the first thing that you have to do is you have to drive the posted speed limit. You cannot keep up with traffic flow. If you keep up with traffic flow during your driver's test, you will not be successful. Nobody comes to a complete stop at a stop-signed intersection. For the purposes of your driver's test, you have to come to a complete stop at a stop-signed intersection. You have to manage speed and space, and you have to have a 2 to 3 second following distance behind other traffic for the entire duration of your driver's test. All right. Come to a complete stop at the correct stopping position at an intersection, before the stop line, before the crosswalk or sidewalk, and if those 2 conditions don't exist, then at the edge of the intersection before entering the intersection. You have to observe correctly when you're moving forward. You have to have a forward observation pattern in place. Check your blind spots, shoulder checking, and you have to communicate effectively with other traffic. As I said before, you have to use your turn signals every time you change directions of the vehicle. Okay, learning faster. To learn faster to drive, focus on slow speed maneuvers. This is the 20% in and 80% out. And I know that a lot of drivers, a lot of students struggle with this. 7/8 of the road test is in a forward motion, but it's the 1/8 of the driver's test, the parallel parking, backing into a parking space, 3-point turns, the Ohio maneuverability test. It's these slow speed maneuvers that give drivers the most difficulty. And yes, for any driver's test, know how to parallel park, back into a parking space, and 3-point turns. At minimum, know those 3 slow speed maneuvers, but at the discretion of the examiner, you could be asked to do any of these other ones. 2-point reverse turn, U-turns, parking along a curb. It's up to the discretion of the driving examiner. Okay, requirements of a road test, things that you need to do. You need to hold the vehicle in the lane. You need to observe correctly and shoulder check. You need to respond to changing traffic conditions. Your job is to demonstrate to the examiner that you have due care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what you need to do. All right. When in doubt, stop. If the traffic situation becomes overwhelming and you don't know how to deal with it, then simply stop the car and wait for the traffic situation to change and then proceed. Too many drivers fail a driving test because they simply sort of plow forward and they're not really sure what's going on, and there's way too much stuff going on, and in some instances it might be better if you just stop for a moment and then proceed after that. Okay, other unexpected events, emergency vehicles and whatnot. If you don't come to a stop immediately for emergency vehicles, that is an automatic fail on a driver's test. Abilities for a driver's test, you have to have 2 hands on the steering wheel for the duration of the test. Unless you're driving a manual transmission, then you can take 1 hand off to shift gears. Stopping in a line of traffic, you have to stop back approximately 1 vehicle length, which your landmark is to be able to see the tires of the vehicle in front, making clear contact with the pavement. Stopping at the correct position, as I already mentioned. Yellow traffic lights, it does not mean proceed with caution. It means stop if you can do so safely. No vehicle will stop in its own length, so if you're 1 vehicle length from the intersection, then you need to come to a stop. If you're closer than 1 vehicle length, then you can't get the vehicle stopped. You'll have to proceed through the intersection. You have to know the difference between controlled and uncontrolled intersections. You'll have to know right of way and yield rules at different intersections. Okay, slow speed maneuvers, as I mentioned, parallel parking, backing into a parking space, and 3-point turns. These are the fundamental maneuvers that you're going to need to do. I would practice those at the beginning of your lesson. So if you're starting out kind of 6 weeks, practice those initially, get out, get driving, and then a week or so before your driving test, go back and revisit these and start practicing these again until you're really good at them and can do them proficiently, and that way you're going to be successful on your driver's test. Okay, you can take driving lessons, you can take whole classes, which is a package of 10 for most students. You're going to have to take some classroom time. You can now, in the post-pandemic days, you can take that online. Sam does some of that training in New York State, where you have to do some driver training, in-classroom driver training before taking your on-road lessons. You can take individual lessons, 1 or 2 here and there. And then I would suggest, if you're not taking driving lessons or any sort of training at all, book 1 mock road test before your driving test. It's going to pay dividends in terms of the feedback that the driving instructor will give you. Keep in mind that driving instructors teach people how to pass a driver's test every day. So take a mock driving test with a driving instructor. He or she will take you on the driving route. They will also give you feedback. They will show you where the driving examiners are going to do the slow speed maneuvers in the parallel park and those types of things. They're not going to tell you that they're on the driving route, but they will take you on the driving route. All right, so those are driving lessons. Get as much practice as you can. I know that's tough for some of you, that your parents are working at jobs and those types of things, and they're not taking you out as much as you should. Try and practice in as many different vehicles as you can. This is a picture of Ariel, who I taught how to drive, and she had a lot of experience driving before she came to driving lessons, and so working with the vehicle was really easy for her because she already knew how to operate all the primary controls and parallel park and do those types of things. So it was just a matter of putting in place, fine-tuning the skills that she needed to be successful in passing her driver's test and in her driving career after getting her license. And she was successful in passing first time. So practice in different driving environments. When you take driving lessons, there's only so many different types of driving that a driving examiner or a driving instructor can get you into. For example, if you live in the north, you're never going to get into winter driving unless you're learning how to drive in the winter time. You're probably not going to learn how to drive. You're not going to take driving lessons at night unless it's the dark of the winter and it gets dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe you might. But these are kinds of things that you're going to have to do on your own and practice on your own after you get your license, is learn how to drive at night, learn how to drive in the winter, learn how to drive it in the rain at night, and those types of things. So you're not going to learn everything when you're learning how to drive. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Sometimes bad drivers pass a driver's test because everything goes swimmingly for them, nothing goes wrong. And then there's other times where good drivers, something goes wrong in the driving environment while they're taking their test, and unfortunately they don't pass. It's not that you're a failure, it's just simply a fact that you weren't successful on passing your driver's test. So sometimes good drivers fail their driver's test and sometimes bad drivers pass. It's just kind of the way that it goes. But for the most part, if you take driver education, driver training, you have a very, very high percentage of passing your driver's test first time. Okay, so practicing for your driver's test, book a mock driver's test, as I said. Book it out about 3 weeks because driving schools are very busy. have this about 7 to 10 days before your driver's test, because if you're not successful on your driver's test because you didn't take driving lessons and you fail, then you have to rebuild your confidence. Now, there are some students out there that simply take a driving test and use it as a driving lesson, but those people are rare, okay? So it's just better for your self-confidence if you get as much driving as you can, as much work you can with a driving instructor, and that way you can go in and pass your driver's test first time. Luck favors the prepared. Learn the basics, and you must master the basic skills. Prepare for the opportunity of being successful on your driver's test. Okay, night before your test, get a good night's sleep. Bring to the driving test your driver's license documentation. If you wear prescription glasses, bring your glasses. If you need sunglasses to drive safely, bring your sunglasses. It's a myth that you can't wear sunglasses. You can wear sunglasses during your test. Back into the parking space if there is reserved parking at the DMV where you're going to take your test. Some of the larger centers, like where Sam is in the Bronx, you just park along the curb, the examiner comes out and gets in the car, and away you go. But if signs don't prohibit it and there is reserved parking at the DMV for you taking your test, then back into the stall. And then finally, keep going on your driver's test until the examiner tells you to stop. Don't get stuck into a mistake that you think you might have made on the driver's test, because the examiner may or may not even have seen the mistake that you thought you made. So until the examiner tells you to stop, just keep going, just keep doing your best, because driving examiners have some discretion in how they mark you. And if they overall 90% of the test went well, but you made one sort of goofy little mistake, then they're gonna, maybe let that go if they know overall that you did really well on the drive. Okay, your job is to take away the driving examiner's right to fail you. Nothing less, nothing more. Good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. So Marion, they don't allow you to video while doing your driving test, and yes, that is an excellent point. Marion, you cannot have dash cams in the vehicle, so if you have recording devices in your vehicle, take them out of the vehicle. Dash cams, audio recorders, any type of videoing, you cannot have that in your vehicle. Stravis, okay, this is all of the United States, okay? We can give you specific information for whichever state you want, okay? Elevator, yeah, swimmingly, everything went well. Elevator fan, there are J-turns in my area where I drive. J-turns, is that a jug handle? Is that what you're talking about, elevator? Teresa, they call the U-turns the K-turn. Teresa, where are you that they call the U-turn the K-turn? Because it is sometimes referred to in the three-point turn as either the K-turn or the Y-turn. Those are other terms for the three-point turn. I've never heard it referred to as the U-turn. Tim, don't forget to talk about unmarked crosswalks when stopping at intersections. Yes, what Tim is talking about is when you come up to the intersection, there's no markings, road markings. There's no crosswalk, but there is a sidewalk. And if there is a sidewalk, then you have to stop before the crosswalk. Now, I want to come back to that point of where to stop at controlled intersections. And when I say controlled intersections, I'm talking about stop signs, yield signs, or traffic lights. So those are going to have stop signs. You're going to have to stop at the correct position. Before the stop line, before the crosswalk, if it's painted lines on the roadway, and if there isn't the painted lines, what Tim is talking about there, then you need to stop before the sidewalk. And if those two conditions don't exist, then you stop at the edge of the road where the two roads meet. So just before entering the intersection. The position of the stop sign has nothing to do with where you stop at the intersection, okay? It's those three positions. Before the stop line, before the crosswalk, sidewalk, or at the edge of the intersection. Now, some people are misinformed that when they stop at the intersection, they have to be able to see the stop line. That's not true. Okay, the stop line has to be about 3 to 4 feet in front of the vehicle when you come to a stop. So basically, when you're coming up to the intersection, you see the stop line just as it rolls out of sight under the front of the vehicle. That's when you bring the vehicle to a stop. If you stopped your vehicle at that point and got out, excuse me, and got out of the vehicle, you would see that you're about 3 to 4 feet behind the stop line. So just as it rolls under the front of the vehicle, that's when you bring their vehicle to a stop at the intersection. Okay, Mallory, I have a t-shirt that says you're in my blind spot. Awesome. Greenbrier, my preferred shift pattern for an automatic. Okay, no P in this setup. Awesome. Awesome. All right. David, speeding is an automatic fail on the driving test. Yes, it is. However, let's just clarify that in terms of speeding. You do get a bit of tolerance on that, okay? You don't have to be at the exact speed limit. Your speed management is connected to your forward scanning pattern. So, for example, you're looking far down the road, you're in checking your instrument panel, far down the road, instrument panel, and mirrors and whatnot. So you should be scanning every 10 to 15 seconds. If you're not adjusting your speed every 10 to 15 seconds, that is telling the driving examiner that you're not observing correctly. So you need to observe correctly to be able to manage your speed well. And yes, if you're 5 miles an hour over the speed limit for the entire duration of your test, you're not going to be successful on your driver's test. Big Mac Sam, great info. You can do it, guys. Be well prepared. Thank you, my friend. Mongol, is the road test in Canada harder than in the US? No, they're about the same amount of difficulty, but it's also going to depend at which DMV you're taking your driver's test. So, for example, if you're taking your driver's test in New York City, it's going to be a little bit tougher because obviously you have the amount of traffic to deal with, different, cities, streetlights, pedestrians, cyclists, crazy skateboarders, and those kinds of things. If you're taking your test in Iowa, it could be a little easier than taking it in a big city. So it's going to depend on the location where you're taking your test. Mallory, can you fail your driver's test for being in the wrong lane? Yes, you can. Absolutely. So lane positioning is a major component of your driver's test and being successful on your driver's test. Greenbrier, the best way to learn to set the brake every time is to drive a car without park. Yes, that'll work. Although I don't think I've seen a lot of cars that don't have park. I've only seen CDL vehicles that don't have park, just have it into neutral. Mongol, last time during my road test, the examiner only used hand to tell me left or right or turn, not by voice. Mongol, sometimes they do that to avoid confusion because some of us, like myself, for example, are right and left impaired. And I just got to the point where I would point. I want you to go that way, or I want you to go that way, right? It avoided confusion because then there was clear communication between the examiner and the student. Explorer, will they fail because of safe gap? No, they won't fail you. So that's a good point. The two ways that you can potentially be unsuccessful on your driver's test. The first way is you're going to get points, and you're going to gain too many points for passing your driver's test, okay? So minor errors are going to get you 5, maybe 7 points, whereas major errors are going to get you 10 or 20 points, for example. So most road tests, you're allowed 35 points. Minor errors, you're going to get 5, maybe 8 points. Major errors, you're going to get 10 or 20 points. So if you get 3 major errors, you failed your driver's test, okay? If you get minor points and you get 10 or 15 errors, for example, you go 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, you're not going to be successful on your driver's test. The other way is an automatic fail in your driver's test. It's not likely, though, that most people are going to get an automatic fail in their driver's test. Very few people get automatic fails. Most demerit out. They get too many demerits on their driver's test. Not stopping for an emergency vehicle is an automatic fail. Entering an intersection that you can't clear is an automatic fail. Blowing a yellow light or going through on a yellow light and the examiner looks up and the light turns red as you're passing through the intersection, that's also a fail on a driver's test. And there's all kinds of misinformation about yellow lights, and people say, oh, if you're past the stop line, you're in the intersection and the light turns red. That's not running a red light. It is very much running a red light, and you will not pass your driver's test. Sam says, Iowa. That's funny. I lived in Iowa for 10 years. Awesome. Out there in the Midwest. And yeah, I remember that you were saying that, Sam, that you lived out there. Jim, you get demerits for following too close? Absolutely. And if you are too close, Jim, or you have a hard braking situation where the vehicle in front stops and you have a hard braking in reaction to that, you might even outright fail your driver's test. Marion, I have a question. I have the parking brake in the HRV, but I also have a button that, just behind it which says brake hold. Which one is that for? Okay. Marion, I think in your HRV, the brake hold is for when you're on a hill start. So that it doesn't roll back. You can just push the brake hold. It'll hold the brake, and then you can give a bit of throttle and get the vehicle going, and then just let go of it, and you won't roll back on the hill. I think that's what it's for. I would need to look at your owner's manual and look it up on Google to be absolutely sure, but I think that's what it is, because they have it on the big trucks that are automatics to prevent them from rolling back, that when you come up, it has hill assist, the brakes come on, and the brakes will stay on automatically, and then you throttle up a little bit on the automatic, and you push the button to release the brakes, and that way it won't roll back when you take off on the hill, because automatics are bad for that on hills. That sometimes you kind of have, if you don't have that button, you'll have to kind of 2-foot it. I'm almost positive that that's what it's for, but like I said, I would need to confirm that information for you. Musonaro is turning right on a red okay during the test. It is, so long as you do all the procedures correctly, and Corey will put up the video for you on turning right on a red light. You have to come to a stop at the correct stopping position. You have to give way to other pedestrians, and there can't be any signs that say no right on red turn. So as long as signs don't prohibit it, then yes, you can do that, and you can turn right on a red light on a driver's test. David, like you mentioned earlier, one of the misconceptions of the road test is that you can't wear sunglasses during the road test, and that is just simply not the case. Absolutely true, because some of us, myself included, are incredibly photosensitive, and I need to wear sunglasses to be able to see when I'm driving in the sunlight. So I wear sunglasses, and if you need sunglasses because you're extremely sensitive to sunlight when you're driving, then definitely wear sunglasses. Yeah, still finding stuff. A lot of people are, Marion. People always say to me, oh, I can drive well, blah, blah, blah. And I get in their vehicle with them and I say, okay, turn on the hazard lights. And then they can't find the switch for the hazard lights, which is interesting because you should be able to find the hazard lights. They're only in one of two places. They're in the center of the dash at the top, or they're on top of the steering wheel column. That's the two places where they be. Jim, I purchased the Smart Driver package course. That is awesome. Thank you for reminding me of that. If you're looking into passing your driver's test first time, check out the Smarter Driver course package over at the Smart Drive Test website. Guaranteed to pass first time, and as well, we add in as a bonus both the winter and defensive driving smart courses, because we want you to stay safe after you get your license as well and have a great career driving. So we put those courses in to keep you safe after you get your driver's license. So check that out. You can pick it up for about $38 US over at the Smart Drive Test website. Awesome. I'm glad you do, Marion, that you know where your hazard light button is. Drawing, I collected 90 points for going too slow. Yes, and that is another excellent point on a driver's test. If you drive too slow on a driver's test, you will not be successful. You think you're being cautious, but you're in fact not being cautious. You're being unpredictable on the roadway. So you will not pass for going too slow on your driver's test either. Thanks so much, Tim. Have a great dinner, and we will see you next week, my friend. All the best. Elevator fan is tapping the brakes at a tailgate or an automatic fail on a driver's test. Elevator fan, no, it may not be, depending on the situation. If you're coming up to a traffic light and you're going to stop, then just tapping to flash the brake lights is actually an excellent defensive driving maneuver that you can put in place to keep yourself safe, so that that person doesn't park in your trunk kind of thing, doesn't rear end you, so to speak. Jim, I got most of my demerits for going too slow on my test. Still passed first time. Okay. Now, saying that as well, Jim, most of the time you're probably not going to be going the posted speed limit for the duration of your test, especially if there's a lot of traffic and a lot of pedestrians and those types of things. You're probably going to be going slower than the posted speed limit. So it kind of depends on what you're doing, and what the traffic situation is in which you're driving is going to depend on your speed. Do you have any idea of how does the driving test is conducted in North Carolina? The driving test is exactly what we're talking about here in North Carolina. It's really not that much different. You can check out the frequently asked questions over at the Smart Drive Test website for the state of Carolina, North Carolina, and see if there's any specifics there that you can keep in mind. The other thing that I would keep in mind and have a look at that, the frequently asked questions are all available for all the states and all the provinces over there, and will give you what the speed limit is inside the city and what the speed limit is out on the highway. And so that way, if you don't see a speed sign, you know you can kind of go to that default speed and keep yourself safe and not fail your driver's test. David, rolling stop signs are also a fail. Not, if you have one or two, you're going to get some points assigned. You're not going to fail outright, but if you do it consistently for the duration of the test, then yes, you're not going to pass your driver's test if you have rolling stop signs. So you need to learn how to bring the vehicle to a complete stop at stop sign intersections. And Corey will put up the video for you on that as well. And Corey's put up the link there for the frequently asked questions for the state of North Carolina. Thank you for that, Corey. Mongol, is Saturday the hardest day to do driving tests in most major cities in Canada? No, Saturday is not the hardest day of the week. The weekday during the early morning and in the afternoon are going to be harder than it is on Saturday. I say on Saturday you're probably going to do all right. Now, if you're trying, and here's the other piece about it, okay? And I had this suggestion from a student last week, left a comment on the channel here about doing research and figuring out which test center you should go to, and it's blah blah blah, and it's like, oh my god, really? So you're going to spend 2 or 3 hours on the internet doing research, trying to figure out which DMV to go to so that you can be sure to get the best examiner and the best odds of passing your driver's test. My suggestion is to, instead of spending that 3 or 4 hours on the internet doing useless work, in my mind, go out and actually get in the car and learn how to drive better, because it's not the driving examiner. If you fail your driver's test, in 9 out of 10 cases, it's not the examiner. It's you. You were not ready for your driving test. You've got to do the work. And unfortunately, many students are not doing the work. And then they get in there and they moan and whine and complain because they didn't pass the driver's test. The reason they didn't pass the driver's test is because you weren't ready. In some cases, yes, it's the examiner. In some cases, yes, something goes wrong in the driving environment that you can't handle. Driving examiners know that you don't have a great deal of experience. They're not expecting you to have a great deal of experience in terms of learning how to drive. Unfortunately, the GDL, the GLP, the Graduated Driver's Licensing Program, has not helped young drivers. It's simply postponed when drivers are getting their license. Instead of getting their license at 16, most are now getting their license when they're 17, 18, 19 years old. You got to do the work, okay? And I would suggest to you, just book a driver's test, just go and do it, okay? The worst that can happen is you fail. But if you have some work in place, you've taken some lessons with a driving instructor, your chances are better than 95% that you're going to pass your driver's test on the first try. Okay? Some skills. Have a look at the automatic fails video here on the channel. Have a look at the most common mistakes. Get some driving lessons with a driving instructor, and you will be ready for your driving test. Okay? Get some practice. Go out with your parents. Drive around. Do your parallel parking. Do your backing into parking spaces. Yes, it's not sexy doing the slow speed maneuvers, but that 20% of work is going to pay off dividends. It's 20% in, 80% out. Do the work in the car, okay? Learning how to drive is not a spectator sport. You can't watch somebody else do it. You can't sit here on YouTube and watch videos of me driving and learn how to drive. You got to get out. You got to do the hard work. You've got to get in the vehicle and do the work and learn how to drive. Okay, Jim, also put your thumb on where your horn button is. Yes, you can do that. But I also have a saying that I say to students: if you've got time to honk your horn, you've got time to react, okay? And reacting and getting your vehicle stopped or taking evasive maneuvers, evasive action so you can get around the pedestrian or whatever is oftentimes going to be better. Now, the other reason I say that is because in North America, the horn is seen as a sign of aggression. It's not seen as a form of a communication. Now, sometimes, yes, a little beep on the horn to tell people that they need to get going because the light turned green and they're still sitting there looking at their phone at the intersection. Or you got kids playing down the block a little bit, then you're going to beep your horn just to let them know that you're there and those types of things. But in an emergency situation, work the steering wheel, work the brake, okay? Don't be working the horn, because the horn is just a sign of aggression. Elevator, is driving in the middle lane an automatic fail in a driver's test? No, it's not. Sometimes the middle lane is going to be your best defensive posturing to keep yourself safe when you're driving. Sam, I saw in the news that a lot of teenagers don't want to get their driver's license nowadays. It came out on the Inside Edition. I don't know if they show Inside Edition over in your part of the world. I haven't seen that, Sam, but I would be definitely interested in seeing that. I think, Sam, there's a couple of reasons why young people are not getting their license. First and foremost, many live in cities, and cities have good public transportation. So they've learned how to take transit, they've learned how to take Uber and those types of things, and they just don't drive. The other piece is that there's so much red tape that the GDL programs, they're not doing what they were designed to do, that young people would have their learners for a year and that they would be driving every day of their learners to get more experience in those types of things. They simply get their learners and then they wait out the time, and then 6 to 8 weeks before the driver's test, they get in the car and start learning how to drive. So it's not any different than it was before. It's just the fact that now, instead of getting their license when they're 16, getting their learners and then 2 weeks later taking their driver's test, they're now getting their learners at 17 or 18 because they're still comfortable taking the bus and those types of things, or their parents are driving them around. I think this is the other issue, is that their parents are driving them around everywhere. And then 6 to 8 weeks, they get in the car and they start learning how to drive. So most of them aren't getting their license until they're 17, 18, 19 years old. But like you said, young people are not getting their license. And as Jim just said here, I just got my N at 34 years old. So, and I know other people who are driving around on their novice license and still haven't taken their second test in places where they have the second driver's test to get a full license. So the GLP, the GDL, it's a failed program in my mind, and I'm not sure whatever's going to happen with this. Mongol, so Sunday is the easiest day to be, okay, just as I said before, get in the car, do the work. I don't know too many places that do driver's tests on Sundays. So, Natalia, is it right to slow down at an uncontrolled intersection? Natalia, you don't necessarily want to slow down, but you do want to scan the intersection well and cover the brake as you're moving through the intersection. So the car is going to slow a little bit, not a lot, but definitely scan the intersection. Do you have any idea? Okay, so North Carolina, we answered that question. Jim, I don't think the people in charge want private car ownership anymore. I don't know about that. I was standing out next to the roadway today watching the cars go by, and I was just like, there are a lot of cars out here. So I don't know whether, private car ownership is going to go the way of the dodo bird anytime soon. All right, let's get over to some comments here. I'll put some comments up here off the Smart Drive Test YouTube channel, and I'll talk about some of those. Some of these I've already talked about. Okay, so D-Half said, today I failed my driver's exam instructor. The examiner told me to park uphill, then told me after the exam that with the uphill parking I had to use my parking brake, which I didn't, but thought it was strange. Deduction of 10 points. And yes, 10 points. For not applying the parking brake on a hill. Now, it's even more dangerous if you don't apply the parking brake and leave the vehicle in park or in gear if it's a manual transmission, and then the vehicle rolls down the hill, crashes through a school. That's probably more dangerous. So 10 marks on not applying the parking brake on a hill was probably rather generous, and so it was unfortunate that they failed. But this is one of the things that you need to know, and you need to know how to hill park for the purposes of your driver's test. And it's pretty easy. It's the Superman rule, up, up, and away. So if you're uphill with a curb, that's the only time that you turn the wheels away from the curb and then allow the vehicle to roll back and have the front tires rest on the curb. Other than that, every other parking on a hill is towards the shoulder of the road. Bear with me here. There we go. Okay, Casey Jones, Ohio needs to get rid of this like other states doing. He's talking about the Ohio maneuverability test, which is driving into a rectangle. There's a nose cone, and then you either have to drive right or left of the nose cone. I disagree completely with Casey Jones, and I think that every state, every province needs the Ohio maneuverability test. It's as hard, if not harder, than the parallel parking requirement for the driver's test, and I think that states and other places, jurisdictions that have gotten rid of parallel parking, gotten rid of the Ohio maneuverability test, are irresponsible and are not testing drivers according to the ability, because any monkey can drive a car straight up and down the road, but to do slow speed maneuvers, to do the Ohio maneuverability test, demonstrates that you can drive the vehicle and maneuver it in parking lots, because most of the bings, dingles, and bangs are going to happen in parking lots, and you need to be able to maneuver the vehicle and know where it is in space and place, especially in relation to tight spaces. So, I'm all in favor of the Ohio maneuverability test. All right, Terrell, I'm good at driving during the daytime hours, but at night it is hard to see, especially long distance driving. I drive home from work on the expressway, but it's a 7-minute drive in the dark. So Terrell is having some difficulty driving at night. As I've talked about in the night driving video and in the night driving presentations, that the farther you get away from lights in the urban settings in the cities and those types of things, the more you have to rely on your headlights. And your headlights, unless you have those blue LED lights that you can see for 96 miles, you can't see very well with your headlights, and you have to rely on being able to find landmarks along the roadway and traffic signs, overhead lights, and those types of things to be able to navigate and figure out where the roadway is going. So have a look at the night driving video, and that will help you out to find landmarks. First and foremost, follow the other traffic on the roadway, because 99% of the time it's going to be driving on the road. So learn how to night drive. This is something you're not going to be taught during driving lessons. Chrissy, y'all scared to get onto the highway is the problem. She's talking about merging onto interstates and freeways. That's how accidents happen. The people already on the highway shouldn't have to move over for you to merge in. You're supposed to be going faster than traffic. It's not rocket science. I believe 85% of people need their licenses revoked. Chrissy is very much one of the people that believe that most people got their license out of the bottom of a Cracker Jack box. If they still make Cracker Jacks, I actually think they do. And she's correct in that you need to get your foot into it. You need to get going when you're merging onto the roadway. However, if you can move over and help out the people that are merging, or you can slow down just a little bit, like 2 or 3 miles an hour, if the person on the acceleration lane has got their foot into it and doing what he or she is supposed to be doing, then everything is going to work out well. If you're going to take the hard line that you don't have to move over and you don't have to slow down, this is how crashes happen, because as I say, you can be right or you can be dead right. So driving is a social activity. We need to help other people out. So if you are on the interstate, you are on the highway, and you can help out the person that's merging onto the highway or freeway, then please, please do so. Sarah, I failed my first driving test this morning. I suffer from severe test anxiety, so I'm looking to make some more improvements best before my next test. Thank you for all your help. Sarah is not alone in her test anxiety. Many, many drivers have test anxiety and unfortunately fail their driver's test because they're super, super nervous when they take their test. Corey put up the video for you on 8 tips for overcoming anxiety and fear. Remember, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that you need to do the work, okay? Because when we're under pressure, when we're stressed, we do what we trained to do, okay? So if you train to put the parking brake on every time you park the vehicle, when you're nervous, when you're stressed, you're going to do it anyway on your driver's test. If you practiced to signal every time you change lanes, if you shoulder check every time you change lanes, you're automatically going to do it when you're under stress, because what you're teaching your body is kinesthetic memory. You're teaching muscle memory. And if you get muscle memory in place, it will look after you when you get under stress. This is why martial artists, those of us who train in jiu-jitsu and karate and judo and taekwondo, we train and we train and we train. Yes, we say we train so we can train harder, but we train so that When we get into a stressful situation and an actual fight and somebody else actually swinging at your head, your body muscle memory will take over. And it's the same thing when you're driving a car and you're taking your driving test. You will do what you train to do. So for example, the smart driver that didn't apply the parking brake on the hill park, they didn't apply the parking brake because they didn't train to do that. So you have to get lots of training in place so that when you get stressed, when you get nervous, you will do what you train to do. The other piece about it is that remember to breathe when you're taking your driver's test. In through the nose, out through the mouth, out through the mouth. So and when you bring it in, hold it for 3. That will cause your body to relax, okay? And then you can focus on what you're doing, because when you're stressed, when you're nervous, we lose our ability to think, all right? So train well, train the correct procedures, train the correct strategies for driving, and then implement that breathing so that you can be successful on passing your driver's test first time and overcoming that test anxiety, those test nerves. Okay, so practice. Don't spend 3 or 4 hours on the internet doing research about which is the best test center to go and take my test, what time of day it is the best time to take my driver's test, okay? None of that crap matters. Become a better driver and go and do what you need to do, okay? You're investing your energy in the wrong place. Your energy needs to be invested in getting in the car and driving it as much as possible and practicing the skills and abilities that you need for your driving test. And on that point, the last point, know what you need to do for your test center. Do they do parallel parking between cones? You need to know that, because then you need to practice parallel parking between cones. If you're in the state of Ohio, then you need to practice for the Ohio maneuverability test for the purposes of your driving test. Okay? If you're in New York City, where Sam is teaching in the Bronx, okay? You need to pull up beside the curb. You need to know how to parallel park. You need to know how to drive in all those crazy underpasses and cloverleafs and getting on and off interstates and those types of things, and drive on parkways with the short acceleration lanes and whatnot. So practice the specific skills for the test center where you're going to be taking your test. And at minimum for slow speed maneuvers, 3-point turn, parallel parking, backing into a parking space. The only 3 states that I know of that don't do parallel parking are Maryland, which is a 2-point reverse turn, Ohio, which is the Ohio maneuverability test, and either Washington State and Oregon will get you to back along a curb for 50 feet, and those need to be practiced as well. Elevator fan, I have a speech therapist who taught me breathing exercises to help me control my cough. Awesome. Young, judo and driving, double muscle memory, probably not the best to do both at the same time unless you're Tom Cruise. Yes, do not do martial arts at the same time that you're driving a car, okay? Yes, do one, then do the other at a different time. Hopefully in your dojo, you're going to do the other one. My instructor failed the guy before me just based on the fact he didn't know his hand signals and was extremely happy just to see I knew mine. Simple but important. Yes, you need to know your hand signals for the purposes of your driver's test. They will ask you about this, okay? So it's left. Just think of pointing left, okay? Right, and then down is slow or stop. They're not that hard, okay? So just practice those a couple of times before you go down for your driver's test. Posh, when turning left into 2-lane traffic, are you allowing to move to the right without him telling you to do so? Yes. So when you turn left on a multi-lane road, left lane to left lane, and then get the vehicle straight. Once the vehicle's straight, then you're going to change lanes back over to the right lane. The driving examiner will not tell you that for the purpose of your driver's test. Watch the video on turning left here on the channel, and that will help you out. Elevator, I also use my high beams at night when it is safe to do so. Yes, and that's the other thing that's going to help you drive at night, because driving at night, as one smart driver said years ago, driving at night is like driving on a different planet. It is, because at night we lose half of our ability to see. That is a lot, half your ability to see, okay? So driving at night, you got to figure out where the landmarks are, and the other the other landmark that you can figure out, if you're driving through trees or a wooded area, you can look up at the sky and you can see the cut line through the trees and figure out which way the road curves to be able to drive safely through the wooded area. No Cobra Kai stuff when you're driving. Yes. Pone, if your beginner has expired for 5 years when you retake your test, do you need to wait the year before doing the driving test? I don't think so. If you've had your learners before and you've already done the learners, you may have to do that. Now, I would check with the MTO in the province of Ontario there and see what they say about that. I can't give you specific information on that. Wyatt, my mother's Focus tranny is going out, so I'm probably going to have to do my test in the Cherokee now. You're going to be fine, my friend. Just a bit of practice and you're going to be great. Zach, this may be a dumb question, but I have my driving test on Saturday, and to clarify, how long should I wait to follow a person when they turn or go at a red light after being stopped? Should I wait? Okay, so you don't have to wait for a certain period of time. You just simply have to come to a complete stop at the red light, and then once you come to a complete stop, then you can proceed after the person has turned. It's so long as you give way to all of the pedestrians and there aren't any signs prohibiting right turn on a red light. Young, I got my license at 20. I was way more emotionally mature at 20 than 16, which may have prevented stupid car accidents when I was 16. Potentially, but I think that car crashes have more to do with inexperience than they do with emotions. I think it's just people not having the kind of experience that they need to have when driving a car. Where to practice the maneuver test in Cleveland? It's hard to find parking lots. Thanks. Love your show. You are most welcome, my friend. I don't know specifically where there are practice places in Cleveland, but I know that if you Google it, that there are some churches and other facilities that have these practice places set up for you that you can actually go there and practice the Ohio maneuverability test. So just Google that and see what you can find. As well, that's the other thing that I should probably do, is see if I can figure out a way to get the addresses for these places where they have these set up so that people can go and practice in the state of Ohio there. Greenbrier, you have ever drove a pickup truck with 2 gas tanks? Yes, I have. It's simply a switch on the dash. You have one gas tank and then the other gas tank, and you gotta fill them up. And it's very expensive to fill up 2 fuel tanks on a truck. Caton, thank you for helping me. I took my test today and passed, and that is awesome news. Thank you so much for dropping back and letting us know that you were successful on passing your driver's test, my friend. And what did you do to go and celebrate? Celebrate, yes, because you only passed your first driver's test one time. So definitely go out and practice, or go out and celebrate. You know, maybe just a beverage with your best friend or whatnot. But, you know, definitely go out and mark the occasion. Zach, yeah, the only thing I'm nervous for on the test is to have the correct amount of following distance and when to brake the gas when stopping behind someone. Okay, so I know what you're asking me. So you need one vehicle length between you and the car in front that you're stopping behind, and it's, what you need the landmark is to be able to see the tires of the vehicle in front making clear contact with the pavement. That's where you need to stop. Big Mac Sam, good night, my friend. All the best, and thank you for dropping by. Always a pleasure, my friend. Greenbrier, at least with 2 tanks, you get more range between fill-ups. Yes, that is absolutely true. But when you get to the pumps with 2 tanks, it's painful, my friend. It is painful. Kate and I hanged out with my friends for a little bit. Awesome. That is great. Awesome. Epic. Another thing that you have to do in order to pass the test in the first time is to get a driving school vehicle, because examiners will look if your vehicle is clean or not. Also up-to-date inspection. Yes, you don't necessarily have to go with a driving school, but make sure that you do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle. And make sure that if you go with a driving school that you ask the instructor whether he or she did an inspection on the vehicle. Because sometimes they forget, we're all human, right? And you don't want to be denied your driver's test because there's a brake light out and it's something you could have easily got fixed on the vehicle before you went down for your driver's test. And make sure that the seat belt works on the passenger seat, okay? All kinds of reasons why students have been denied being able to go out and take their driver's test. So do that pre-trip inspection. As well, you want to pass first time, check out Pass Your Driver's Test First Time course package over at the Smart Drive Test website. As a bonus, we throw in both the winter and defensive driving smart courses. I want to make sure you stay safe after you get your license, so we throw those in as well, and you can pick that up for about $38 US over the Smart Drive Test website, and guaranteed to pass first time. GQN, my problem is changing lanes. When I change my head for see the blind spot, my hands move at the same time. Yes, what you're doing is you're turning your head too slowly. You're going like this, and then the vehicle moves. So the vehicle is going to go in the direction you're looking. So you got to speed up your head check. So it's quick head check, just like that. Quick head check. That's all you're doing. Okay? So speed up your head movement. Elevator fan, is changing lanes in an intersection an automatic fail in a driver's test? Yes, it is. Don't change lanes in an intersection. It's simply not safe. Greenbrier, if I pass my driver's test in the parking lot of a paintball range, they better have a gun. Okay. I'm going to make it rain. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Great content, my friend. Thank you for your advices and lessons. And King B, you are most welcome, my friend. And I wish everybody all the best in passing their driver's test in the next couple of weeks that they have it coming up. And as well, if you passed your driver's test in the last couple of weeks, congratulations. Awesome, awesome news. If you have a comment, leave a comment down in the comment section if you're watching on the replay. Or if you have a question, leave it down in the comment. Hit that thumbs up button and have a great night, my friends. Oh, here he is. Striker Dog. Striker Dog. There we go. Can you say hi? Can you say hi? Right there. See? Look in the lens. No? All right. Striker Dog. Striker Dog out. Yes, just let me go back to sleep. You're interrupting my sleep. Frenchie. Night, everybody. You're not thrilled. No? T-Mac, I am driving with my brother with a learner's permit in a couple of months. Got to take my driver's test. Awesome. You're going to do great. Awesome, awesome. Yes, the smart dog. See, he's falling asleep. He's like, ooh, sleepy. He's sleepy. Yeah, I'm with my dad. I'm just going to go to sleep. All right. All right. You're so cute. Good night, everybody. All the very best. Bye now. You got the hiccups?